thank you very much for having me today. My name is Jay Lockwood. I'm at Kubrick Group. I'm the head of the Channel Alliance, and it gives me great pleasure to talk on behalf of Ultrix today, who've kindly invited us to take the stage and discuss how we can think about turning a talent pool into a talent ocean, and of course the importance of why. So first of all, to give a bit of an overview of Kubrick, we exist to help overcome the digital skills emergency. And I don't think we need to go into too much detail about the level of the emergency we have in terms of the numbers of people we need to recruit, the skills that we need to bring into the industry, and the diversity of talent that we need to also bring into the industry to help our companies and our societies transform. And we exist to try and help bridge this gap by bringing very talented individuals into that market, training them extensively, and helping place them in companies to begin a really compelling and powerful career in data, cloud, and technology. And we've done to date, we've trained over 700 consultants. We've operated with over 70 organisations, or we are currently operating with over 70 organisations. And we're really proud that our diversity figures currently are about 41% of all of our consultants to date have been female. And we, for one, won't rest until we're above the 50%. So how does Kubrick work? Well, first of all, we try and identify brilliant minds, and only the top 1% of people that apply to us qualify for our courses. We then train them for a period of 16 weeks in data, and we have 3 streams of data, in cloud or machine learning. After these 16 weeks, which are trained in our London labs, of course until recently a little more remotely, by industry professionals with about 16 years of experience, we then place our young professionals with our partners. And there they operate for a period of up to 2 years, and the really key part of what we try and do is ensure that that young talent, those junior professionals, are retained as full-time employers by our partners at the end of 2 years. So we're really trying to push not just a consultancy that puts bums on seats, but trying to build and augment data and cloud teams for the next 3-5 years. So why do we do this? Well, we know that there's a huge digital skills emergency in the UK as we speak. And we know that COVID is accelerating that massively. The lack of good people are really preventing the most important industries in this country from transforming. And I read a recent statistic that is currently costing our economy over £100 billion every single year. So we really want to be an additive to the data, cloud, and AI industries, and thinking about how we bring that talent. And we've had to think about that very differently. And first of all, I'm going to talk about that talent pipeline into our existing pool. When we started, we know that gender, we simply are not represented properly across the data industries. And currently it's about 18% of all data roles are filled by people that identify as females. This is simply not good enough. But one of the big reasons why is the way that we identify talent right at the beginning. And when Simon and Tim set up Kubrick 5 years ago, we had to really think about thinking differently and identifying talent as opposed to what they'd necessarily just done in their careers or education to date. And this graph is really illustrative of the problem. The talent pipeline dramatically thins after GCSEs. Most data, technology and AI jobs are asking for a STEM degree or particular A levels in terms of maths, physics and sciences. We know the choices that people make at GCSEs therefore completely impact how many people that we can have coming into our industry. And it disproportionately impacts females, people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and people from multicultural households as well. So we have been really thinking differently about how we identify data-aligned talent, not just STEM backgrounds. And when we widen our pipeline to data-aligned subjects at A-level and university, you can see what happens to the talent pipeline coming into the industry. And most importantly, it's making it fairer to both males and females. And when I talk about data-aligned subjects, we're talking about history, we're talking about English, we're talking about geography, those subjects that we've identified that have the skills to really, really succeed in the data industry. And thankfully, we've got a few of our consultants here today to talk about their journey and to talk about how particularly their backgrounds and their studies have helped them forge and begin to forge very successful careers in data, cloud and AI. If that's the pipeline into our industry, we also think that there are some significant icebergs coming along the route. And as the pace of transformation continues, we think that actually the frozen middle is going to become a big, big blocker in terms of our country's economic and social development. And when I talk about the frozen middle, I'm talking about the huge number of people in different industries that perhaps don't have the data background or don't have the data skills to keep up with the transformation and that are in jobs that are going to perhaps be overtaken by automation. So we've got a real drive in Kubrick now to talk about upskilling, and that's upskilling technically but also culturally in order making sure that we've got people with the right mindsets to continue to learn and to continue to improve. We also know that with the 18% that I spoke about earlier, that we also have a very unfair and unbalanced group of workers in the industry already. And we have to think about how we get more diversity in leadership positions. How do we help people up that ladder in the most sort of speedy way possible? And finally, I want to talk today about culture and data literacy. And it's a term that's bandied a lot around. And as we walk around the exhibition today, we see great software, we see great tools, and we see lots of shiny, really exciting stuff. Today, I want to talk about how important people are in terms of using that tooling and using that software to create a culture of change within companies. And sometimes we're talking about companies that may be a little archaic. So how do we foster a culture that creates change? How do we foster an energy that allows people to use data for the most important reason possible? And that's insights to make better business and health and financial decisions. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Amy, Elmira and Alex, who are three consultants of Kubrick at very different stages of their career. And we're going to just have a very simple and very informal question and answer session, which I'll lead, and hopefully open the floor to you guys to ask them some questions around how they got into a career and the things that they're most excited about moving forward. And I'm really going to touch on each of them about different aspects that I've just talked about in terms of upskilling, about females in leadership, and also about culture and how we change that culture within data organisations in different companies. So starting with Amy, it'd be great if you could just give a little bit of background, please. How you got into data. She's got a very interesting story. Was studying to be a yoga teacher in Sri Lanka, and halfway through a downward dog, thought data is exactly what she wanted to do for the rest of her life. So I will let Amy talk a little bit about her journey.
Is this on?
I think it is now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, my journey into data it's definitely not a straightforward one. I come from a non-STEM background, so I studied history at university, and then I went traveling for a few years afterwards. Went to Tanzania, helped to facilitate the formation of new businesses in rural communities, and then I taught English in Thailand for a year, and then continued traveling. I did my yoga teacher qualification, and then I was teaching yoga in hostels and hotels for a little bit. So yeah, when I came back, I kind of thought, so I'm a very naturally inquisitive, curious person. I love to kind of go out and discover new things and derive interest and insights from different things. So I thought I wanted a role that was really analytical and something I could really get a lot of information, something that's in an innovative and fast-moving kind of industry, and tech and data was really what interested me at the time. And also some place that was going to really train me up in skills that are really valuable in the workplace. So I found Kubrick, and yeah, kind of was so happy to have something that was willing to train and develop me as a person, in these skills that are really valuable in data. And yeah, and then I've had I had a great time at Kubrick, had multiple different clients, different industries that I've worked with, and now I'm moving on to a different role within Kubrick as a advanced consultant, which is, as Jay touched on before, helping to kind of accelerate your career in terms of leadership skills, and yeah, I'll be like leading teams of junior consultants and helping to pave that way into that new role that I've got. So yeah, that's a bit about me. That's my background.
Thank you, Amy. And just focusing in on your new role in terms of Kubrick Advanced and the leadership role that you're taking there. So just to give that a bit of context, Amy will sit and head up 4 or 5 different consultants out on site as that management wrapper, the management bandwidth in terms of on client site. What particularly makes you nervous about this new role, and what excites you?
I think they could both be the same question. Like the nerves and the excitement both kind of come at the same time in terms of I'm really excited to get leading a team and to be mentoring people, but at the same time I suppose the nerves come in like, you know, am I ready? Am I like good enough for this? But I know that I've got like a really good support system. I'm going to have all the training and help I can get, and I think if anything, sometimes the blocks or the fears you have are kind of you put on yourself, and I think as long as you get out of your own way and you're willing to put in the learning and the hard work, then yeah, I think that's
good. Amy, can I ask, would you have any advice for a 21-year-old female out of university history graduate that was feeling I'm not qualified for data? What would you say to them that perhaps could encourage them to retrain and think about a future career?
Well, this is it. I think as a history graduate, for me, a career in data seemed quite daunting in a STEM-dominated world. So I think having a career or an employer that will help to train and develop you, and also know that anything can be learned, like anything that's difficult at the start will always get easier. There's so much like online, and there's so many learning and development things you can go through in order to get a career in data. And also any obstacles, you know, turn those into opportunities. Like I think anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Brilliant, thank you, Amy. And I think we'll just move on to Elmira, who also has a very interesting journey into the data world, who was first learned about data on a flight to Brazil, and that was encouraged. She was encouraged by the person sitting next to her to explore all career opportunities. So Elmira, maybe you can give us a little more context about that, please.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, guys. So as Jay said, it's an interesting story of mine, of how I got into thinking of a career in data. I was on my way to a placement for 2 months in Brazil as I was studying molecular biology. And next to me sat a guy. He needed a pen to fill in, you know, like the customs form. So we shared a pen and then started chatting why each of us is going to, you know, to Brazil. I said my reason, and he was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just thinking Brazil looks cool, weather looks nice, so I'm going to spend there a couple of months, grabbing my laptop with me to work for, you know, a company in their data department. And I was like thinking to myself, what? That is possible? Me sitting at that time on the plane thinking of a, you know, career in clinical sciences that is very applied, sitting in the lab every single day, 9 to 5. It was basically my first encounter of the possibilities. So while I was on placement, I started looking online for, you know, the vast array of resources that exist about, you know, learning Python or what is SQL, things like that. I quickly changed the modules for my last year at uni to all the applied data skills. And when I was doing my last year project, I was actually the one who created data before analyzing it. I was doing work on stem cells. It was really interesting. So I was gathering the data myself, analyzing it myself. And I was like, I actually really enjoy this. And I had a really cool mentor in my life at that point. It was one of the lecturers, and he explained to me that, you know, there are actually companies who possibly look out for people like you with interests in data, and they skill you with the missing gaps, missing techniques. And so I started Googling, I stumbled upon Kubrick, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, wow, seriously, people actually do that. I could get into this career with my degree in life sciences, and I managed to get in. As you see, I finished the the data engineering stream. So that's the processing data before it gets analyzed. We got trained in SQL and Python, big data technologies, and the 4 months at Kubrick was definitely the highlight of my coming to the end uni life. It was very intense and rich atmosphere of amazing ideas, amazing people, amazing support from trainers. It was just really, really great to start journey with Kubrick, and I'm really grateful that I'm managing to continue it now.
Thank you, Amir. And can we focus a little bit now in terms of when you're on client side? Yeah. What were your experiences of diversity and talent, and how did you help overcome any barriers that you faced when you were on client side?
Yeah, really good question. So first of all, I was placed with a client in a financial sector where we had a team of various experiences. So me feeling myself as a junior girl joining a team with various backgrounds, I was skilled, empowered by Kubrick to be bold and brave enough to propose ideas. And actually, I guess one example of a story is when I enabled a guy who was, very restricted to his thinking of how things should be done, to introduce to some tooling. For example, I managed to show him a simple thing as version control, introduce him to Git, and skill him in, even the available UI tools. You don't necessarily need to be coding. And as a result of this one, he was like, oh, wow, you can do that. So he managed to review the code we were doing for a project. And ended up thanking me, a little junior girl in the team, explaining to me what Git is. So it's about being brave to, able to talk about the ideas that you have. That's where diversity truly flourishes, and that's what Kubrick is enabling.
Well, I think you're giving us too much credit. I think actually you guys are enabling, and it's us sometimes to just help the vehicle along the way. And then perhaps coming to Alex, and Alex is at this very start of his career. He's still mid-training, so it'd be very interesting to hear again he went from Charles Dickens to data. So he's an English graduate. He's now a data product consultant, so a little bit of Python, a little bit of SQL, some data viz. But it'd be really interesting to hear about that journey and what interested you in data, and how we can make the best of your different mindsets as well. Alex, please.
So thanks. So I first started, my first taste of data when I left university. I joined a social media company doing kind of like a junior consultant role. I was writing my first report, and my manager said to me, "Make this into a story." And I remember thinking, what the hell? Like Oliver Twist's story. You can't make a story out of numbers. But anyway, as time progressed, I realized I really enjoy doing it. I'm actually quite good at doing it. But the data we're working with was quite low level, and I was kind of aware of this wider world of data, the Python, the SQL of the industry. But I was facing lots of barriers into entry. So I remember having to pay a huge amount of money for a week-long course just to learn a few lines of SQL code. And then eventually I found Kubrick. I was like, oh my God, these guys are going to pay me to learn all these skills. I thought, this is fantastic. Applied and managed to get in, and really I'm just very excited about throughout the training. There's always been a focus on the human side of data, which really interests me. How can you translate numbers into relatable stories you can tell, stories that make people interested, and make you more interesting. And so far the training, I've got a couple of weeks left, has been sensational. I can't believe the breadth of stuff I've learned, and just really looking forward to bringing it into the industry.
And Alex, at the very beginning of your career, what do you think the biggest challenge in terms of data and culture is that you're going to face when you go on client side, and what do you think you can do to help overcome that challenge?
I think obviously my industry experience is slightly limited, but I do feel from what I've understood from what the trainers have said and what I've read, there's a slight disconnect between those people who have built these data warehouses, these databases, and really understand the data, and then the people who are front-facing those sales and marketing teams, and how do they then get have those data insights at their fingertips. And I see my role as kind of bridging that gap, being the person in between the two teams that can really, who promotes data literacy throughout the company, who can talk to the data teams, who can talk to the people who don't really understand data, and find that common ground and really help people like promote understanding throughout the company and drive growth and drive innovation.
Brilliant, thank you, Alex. And just back to Elmira as well, and I think one of the things that we've been talking a lot about internally is how we can help better foster the leadership aspect for our females in data. And Elmira is also one of our first associate principals, because when we look at ourselves in the mirror, all of our principal trainers are currently male. We've tried really, really hard to hire a female principal trainer, but can't. So we've taken the decision to train our own, start training associate principals, and make a proper leadership sort of pathway in that way. So it'd be really interesting to Elmira to ask how you're feeling about that. You're sort of 6 months in. What opportunities do you think are available to you as a result of that?
Thank you. It's definitely a really exciting opportunity that Kubrick are providing. As an associate principal, I do currently get a lot of opportunity to train and upskill, so that I do feel comfortable facing consultants who are in training to present them with the latest technologies, current whatever's happening on the market, so that we in Kubrick in-house are representing the up-to-date agenda. And I do feel a lot of support as well from all of the training team, from everyone in Kubrick, and I do get opportunities to interact with consultants while I'm upskilling myself and provide them with feedback, and as a result Kubrick supports kind of the leadership skills that I'm developing, even though I'm quite early on my journey. So
thank you, Elmira. Guys, we have 5 minutes left, so I'd love to open to the floor for any questions we have to any of our consultants about their journeys, about the approach to diversity, about what more we can do to bring in good talent into the market, into the industries, and most importantly, diverse talent and diversity of thought. So if anyone has any questions, please put your hand up, and I think someone's going to come round with a microphone. But we have...
Hi, it's loud. I think I'm really interested in the barriers to entry into data careers for non-STEM graduates, which I think the first lady's a history graduate. I'm a modern languages graduate and stumbled into data 5 years into my career. I think a big barrier to entry and progression in the data science world, specifically machine learning, is the complex maths. Now, I've worked with, I myself am not a complex mathematician, and I've worked at a company where the head of data science was an English lit graduate. And is it even possible to, I believe it's very possible to skill up in SQL, Python, and other technical disciplines because they're very practical and you can learn by doing. But advanced maths for data science is surely so theoretical that you can't kind of crash learn that. I wonder what your thoughts are on that, and whether you really need to be advanced in maths, given that, say, Python does most of the algorithms, does the maths for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question. One that such a good question, I'll attempt to answer it first. I think the important thing is we've got a number of streams, and the importance of maths differs in each and every one. I think in data management and data product it is slightly less important than machine learning, of course. But one of my biggest objections with the whole government strategy in terms of trying to upskill people in computing and this industry is that everybody has to be 100% computer science or 100% coding. The idea that the new computer science framework is basically all coding, to me, just defeats what we're trying to do. And I think that's where we come back to the importance of data literacy. We've got some great tools. We've got some great softwares. What Ultrix can do is brilliant. We need people that understand the maths and everything that goes behind that, but we also need people that understand what it's showing and how that might impact the business. So I think the idea that everybody needs to be in the same bucket is actually one of the biggest problems in data and data science and all the associated industries. And I think it's that breadth and depth of different people that will give us the real diversity of thoughts that we need in businesses. Thanks.
Hello. Have you had to have any hard conversations with your clients where you've said it's going to take us longer to resource up our team because we want to make sure we've got a diverse talent pool rather than hiring the next 10 people who all look the same? And how do you approach that conversation?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, I think we hire people quite a long time before they go on client sites. We're always able to manage that supply and demand. First and foremost, I think diversity is incredibly important to us, but the way that we also hire is we never ever negotiate on quality, and I sometimes think that is a problem that people think is there and it doesn't need to be. It's just us. It's the ability to think and look for talent in a different way. And my favourite story is when Tim and Simon set up the company 5 years ago. They actually engaged an ex-MI5 operative in terms of some of the tests they had for people doing or trying to apply to the cohorts at the time, because they were so acutely thinking about how to get people that think in the right way as opposed to have the perfect experience to date. Because we believe with the right mindset and the right skills, we can train everything else. But you're absolutely right. It's not always possible to hit a quota. Quality will always be an incredibly important thing to maintain whilst you're also pushing diversity. I think we've got time for one more question.
Hi, thanks. So you spoke about the kind of leaky pipeline. I understand that you're trying to take people out from outside of the STEM degrees. Do you do anything to help address that leaky pipeline and encourage females or different minorities to actually pursue STEM subjects at A-levels, at university and beyond?
Yeah, again, great question, because I mean, I think when you look back at that pipeline I had up earlier, we know that the big decisions are made at sort of 15 and 16, and as we've matured as a company, we are doing more and more outreach, working with schools, working with our partners, women in data, to try and get as far back as we possibly can to impact that pipeline. My background is actually education. I used to be a head teacher, so I understand how important those formative years of 14 to 16 and actually how difficult it is at 16 to change somebody's mind. So it's something that we will continue to work on. We probably need to get better and sharper at it, but it's something that we're very, very passionate about. Guys, I think I've got about 1 minute left, so just to sum up, if I could just sum up what we're talking about today, is I think these expos are brilliant. We can see, as I said, so many shiny software, exciting analytics. It's fantastic, and obviously Ultrix have invited us. They're a great partner of ours, and that tooling is so important to the industry. But it's what I always say to our partners: software need people, people need software, and I think the better quality people we can get at the younger age of their career, the more diverse they are, the better our whole industry will be. And I'd really like to thank our three consultants for giving up their time today. Thank you very much.